From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
You are. You're getting very good at that. You know who you are. It's amazing. Almost 300 times you know who you are. This is good.
I know.
Vicky, we have a guest.
I know. We do.
It's somebody who's involved with your favorite race car.
It must be a Miata.
It is a Miata.
Cool.
He is part of the company that is responsible for all the MX-5 Cup race cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the official name is the Global MX-5 Cup. We'll find out for sure. His name is Todd Flis. Welcome to the podcast, Todd.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be on the show.
It should be fun. So there's so many different spec Miata series, but I know that most of the stuff that you work with is on the ND spec Miatas. So what is the official? I want to make sure we get the right racing series for the ND cars.
So the ND cars race at a pro level in IMSA in the MX-5 Cup series presented by BF Goodrich. The other series that feed into that, of course, are, like you mentioned, Spec Miata, and then they also have Spec MX-5, which is the NC chassis car. All the NDs, it's a single make series with a single builder, which is Flis Performance, which is the company that I run. We are a tier 1 partner with Mazda, and we are contracted to build all the cars. We run the CEC, the Customer Experience Center, at all the events. So we provide parts and technical service to all the competitors, and it's a phenomenal series. It's an entry into professional racing, is what we call it.
You almost said professional wrestling. And some of the races, it looks like you could be saying professional wrestling.
Yeah.
They're pretty tight.
Absolutely. Yes, they are.
I think I saw at least one that was in the distance between first and second was in the thousands, and it wasn't very many of them.
Yeah, our 7 weekend 14 race series in 2001, the total margin of victory over the entire season was less than 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely incredible how hard these guys race, and how close the cars are. The platform is it's an excellent car, and we really try to keep them all identical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we like it even when you don't get to work your magic on it, but we'll get into that later. So do you have any racing experience personally, or is this kind of just a car passion project for you? Or
No, my brother and I started racing go-karts at a fairly young age and progressed that into autocross and then SCCA club racing. And we moved on to IMSA and had a couple of people reach out to us and wanted us to start, building and prepping cars for them. So we turned it into a full-time business, and that led all the way for us into racing, DPI prototypes and GT cars throughout Grand Am and IMSA over the last 35 plus years. Mm-hmm. So it's not a new venture. It's a little bit sort of full circle. We're back to a very simple car, built on a streetcar chassis. So very, very rewarding at that. Even though we were at the pinnacle and top level of sports car racing, this is something that's very satisfying to my brother and I. So it's a great, great series and concept that Mazda has.
Okay. So are you involved with any other cars right now, or are you pretty much full-time, let's make some ND race cars?
Yeah, we have two facilities located in Daytona. We have been partners with Mazda for a while. We've done a lot of development work with them on their DPI projects and some of their GT cars. And we were tapped to build the new Mazda 3 TCR car, and we sort of fell into this MX-5 Cup program. So this right now is the only thing that I personally do. My brother does do some other projects and R&D work at one of our other facilities. But right now it is our full-time, 7 full-time employees and just under 15,000 square foot of production area and facilities and paint bays and fabrication shop. So it's a pretty big operation.
Yeah. Well, luckily the cars are small, so you can fit a lot of them under 15,000 square feet. So you should
Exactly.
be pretty.
That's what's nice about it. We could fit a lot of cars in a small area.
Yeah, if you were doing like mid-70s Cadillacs, you'd probably fit like 6 and be full.
Yeah, I'd bring my pickup truck into the shop to change the oil. I'm like, what happened here? We just took up 3 spots. I'm like, yeah.
So in case some of the audience isn't familiar with the racing series itself, I think it varies year to year how many events you'll have, but you race for, I think the races are usually 40-minute sprints. Does that seem right?
Yeah, each weekend is a double header. So each race weekend we do 45-minute races.
Okay.
We race with IMSA. We were previously with IndyCar, but 2021 was the first year with IMSA and being sanctioned with them. So we're a pre-show to the big weekend at all the main IMSA events. A little bit of exciting change for 2022 is we run 2 weekends with NASCAR, one at Road America and one at Watkins Glen. So that's new to the series, and that's going to be very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Big crowds, and I think our racing is so exciting and competitive. I think it'll bring a new audience to the series for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, having raced Miatas basically since we started, curious just how you got started with your relationship with Mazda and what that's allowed you to do in terms of helping out the different racers that you're making these cars for.
So, reaching back a couple years ago, we had started some research and development projects with Mazda, and at the time, John Doonan, who was the president of motorsports there, and we have a long relationship with him. And we were always looking for some type of Mazda race team, to be involved with. And like I said, we were tapped to do the TCR car. Unfortunately, COVID sort of put the kibosh on that, but we were lucky enough to pick up the MX-5 Cup program, and within 90 days, we, had it running, moved to Daytona, started production and, building cars. We, had to sort of prove ourselves over the first season to some of the competitors. But now we've created great relationships. We're very transparent. We've opened up some of the rules a little bit for the guys to be able to tune on the cars and see some of the technology and data that we've brought to the cars. So that side's been fantastic. So going into year 3, we've just built a little bit stronger field, a little bit stronger teams. Really a lot of new and upcoming go-karters and go-kart teams are now looking at this series as the next, stair step in a motorsports program. So, it's just exciting stuff, and it's great to have Mazda behind it. And their support for sure.
Mm-hmm. So you can, if you call up Mazda, you could probably get more than a keychain, I'm guessing.
Well, sometimes you never know.
So what are some of the changes that you make from a stock car to an MX-5 Cup car?
So the car gets shipped directly from Japan to us, and it's called a fleet spec. So they build the car with as little amount of options as possible. So we get the car to our facility. We completely gut the interior, and we remove the sound deadening material, but we don't remove the seam sealer. Then we install the roll cage, and that's an FIA approved cage. We do all that in-house, and then the car is dressed with a fire system, a seat, a weight box, a Bosch ECU, AIM engine management, and dash, along with their Smarty cam system. That's a mandatory option on the car. We do upgrade the suspension only with Multimatic dampeners and springs. The brake upgrade is a set of Brembo GT package front calipers and a front rotor. The rear brakes remain stock. The engine is actually never removed from the chassis during the fabrication and build process, but we do install new engine mounts, bigger radiator, some upgraded under tray enhancements to help with some of the cooling, and excuse me, an aftermarket throttle body, and a couple other items like that. It's over 200 parts that we add to the car during the fabrication and build process.
So was this only for the ND1 or ND2 or both?
So when the series first started in 2016, the ND1 ran from 16 to 18, and then in 19 they came out with the ND2. So they ran two classes in the series. In 2020, it became all ND2. So the ND1 car, you could convert it. You could do a kit and convert it with the engine and the new gearbox, and make it competitive once in the series. But most of the guys with ND1s had sold them off to either club cars for some of the private country clubs, or they've turned them into SCCA or NASA cars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how many cars have you built so far?
Total count since the inception of the series in 2016 is 251 cars. Since we took over at the end of 2019, we built 16 cars in 2020, and we just finished up with 26 cars for 2021. So we currently build one car every 2 weeks.
Oh wow, that's fast.
Wish we could.
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite an efficient build process. We have it pretty much dialed in.
Do you do house calls? We have a hangar. You can come by anytime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have that all the time. Problem is that you'd have about a 3-month wait just for me to be able to look at something.
We won't have changed much in 3 months. That's fine. You just tell you where it is right now, and it'll be about the same. So yeah. Especially if it's going to be 5 degrees outside. But anyway, so you take your now it's an ND2. You take your ND2, which is the 2019 and on car, and you turn it into the cup car. If you were to take the two to a track and compare them, pick a track. It doesn't really matter what track, really. What kind of performance differences are we talking about? Is it like real race car, or is it like just a little better?
Absolutely. Yeah, the car, the platform of the ND is just an incredible car, and the time that's been spent on the suspension setup and R&D and all the testing. And now, certainly with the SADAF sequential gearbox in the car, it's a real race car. I mean, the thing just, we just held the shootout down in Sebring in late November, and we put Max Pappas in the car, and he's like, this thing is like a little mini GT car. He goes, it's just phenomenal. The thing is so adjustable, and it just does a lot of things very good. So comparably between a street car with some minor mods to it and one of these cars, it's a pretty big difference, certainly in lap time, and certainly with the tire that we run on the Cup car. It's pretty crazy the lap time that these cars put down.
Yeah, especially since they're not 9,000 horsepower cars, so always good.
Yeah. I mean, we only make between 181 and 185 at the wheel on this car.
Mhm.
So it's probably making close to 200 at the crank.
Right.
So it's it goes pretty good for a little under 200 horsepower car.
Mm-hmm. So I know recently they changed to the sequential from the traditional H pattern type shifters. Is there a reason for that?
They had issues with the early ND2 car, and even I believe even with the lower horsepower ND1 car, they had a lot of issues, and probably a good bit of that was related to how the guys were driving the car in the series. I mean, they flat shift, to run up front. The good guys figured that out, and the cost that the teams were, having put on them by going through a couple gearboxes a season just wasn't, feasible. So we developed the SADAV, which is a box that they use in multiple different applications. We just developed a new bell housing, clutch, flywheel, tail shaft. It still retains the same power plant frame as the stock car, and it bolts in the car. And we are now on year 2, and we have not had a single failure whatsoever. And we pull these gearboxes out at the end of the season, and they're still brand new. If you change the oil in them and service them, they run forever. I mean, they're designed around a 350 horsepower, center section of the gearbox. So it's really a bulletproof, absolutely phenomenal, change. It's still a hand shifted car. It does not have paddle shifts, but it has flat shift up and rev match downshift through the Bosch ECU. So it's a real racing setup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are your cars the only ones eligible to compete in the series?
Yes. Yep. One make series.
Ooh.
Wow. It's good to be the king. That's awesome. So let's pretend that Vicky's not here, and I wanted to get a car. Like, I want to get online, and I want to give you my deposit, and I say, when's my car coming? And you're saying I'm full until how long?
We're actually not too bad right now. We got all the series cars built. We do have 5 club cars right now in production. So you're looking the end of March
that's not
for
bad.
a new car. Yeah, the biggest snafu I have right now is I'm completely out of all the 21 model cars that we build almost like a year behind. We order cars a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So my 22s are not going to be here until probably May. They're just so far backed up with the supply issues and microchip problems. And so that puts a little bit of a hold, but we do still have a couple of chassis remaining and ready to be built. But right now you're about a 90-day, build time.
It's better than the local dealers in many cases. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, we stepped up. We stepped up in early 21 and bought a whole bunch of cars. So the dealers were actually trying to buy my inventory from me. So I was like, nope, those are all race cars. You can't have my cars.
Yeah. Well, how many white cars can they want, right?
Yeah.
So what tracks are you racing on, and how many events a season do you have?
So we do 7 weekends, 14 races, all doubleheader events. We start at Daytona, then we go to St. Pete in late February, on to Mid-Ohio in mid-May, and then June we go to Road America with NASCAR, and then we go to Watkins Glen with NASCAR in July, and then we go to VIR, and then we finish up at Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta.
That's a pretty good sampling. You're getting all the good places. We've been to some of those, not all of those, but it's just a matter of
phenomenal schedule.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming there's certain things that since it's such a tightly controlled spec series, that the entrants or the owners or the teams are allowed to work on, and certain things they aren't. Is that true?
So the only adjustment on the car, like suspension wise, would be shock valving. They do have the cars do have 8-way adjustable shocks. We just implicated that you're allowed to disconnect the sway bars, which was never allowed before, but there's some reasons in the rain that we are going to allow competitors to do that in 22. The front sway bar is adjustable. The rear sway bar is stock on the car, so it is not adjustable. And then really just suspension setups. A lot of guys play around a lot with camber and toe and caster. And really that's it. They cannot manipulate anything ECU wise. We are the only ones that have access to the ECU. So we do give them a window that they can go in and look at certain things. And of course, data side, they're open. They can do whatever they want on their data side. But as far as engine control, we have total control of that. So really it comes down to suspension setup, tire pressures, and those things that I mentioned. That's about the only thing you could do on these cars.
Okay. So I know the car is very, very durable, but what happens when you have a very bad day and like you blow a motor or you get into an accident or something like that? What's the recovery procedure? Do they have to send it back to you guys, or can they put the engine in, or?
Yeah, so all the engines are sealed by us when they initially come into either the Mazda distribution chain or through us on the CEC trailer. We seal all the engines and the gearboxes. So if you have an engine failure at the racetrack, you just come over to the trailer, we roll out a new engine, and you go plug it in. Mazda has a tremendous program through their motorsports department. When you have an account with them, they discount the engine just greatly. I mean, you buy the engine significantly less than a dealer pays for the parts. So they really support the competitors with that. So, a complete engine dressed is, under $4,000. So there's no rebuilds, there's no fixing, there's nothing. We just roll you a new motor, a sealed engine, you plug it in, and you get back to racing.
What about for an accident? In case there's like body damage or frame damage, would they go back to you, or could they take care of that themselves?
We have a pretty advanced system of heavy damage to the cars. Most of these cars are very easily fixed. The front and rear subframes are all bolted in these cars. So at track, you could hit something pretty hard and still get away with fixing it. And we carry all those parts on the CC. But if it has substantial damage and it's something that's, example, it's got into the transmission tunnel, or significant front chassis or rear chassis damage, the car would have to be brought back to us after it was repaired for it to be recertified. 9 times out of 10, when a car is heavily crashed, we go down and we look at it, and we make a judgment call at that point and say, okay, this one's done, and we scrape the certification tags off the roll cage and it goes to scrap, or we, advise the team, hey, listen, take the car, have it fixed, and we'll recertify it at that point.
Okay. So we have an ND that we run, but nothing as competitive as what you have, but just a relative frequency, I guess. As far as your fluids, do you recommend that everybody change? Obviously you're going to breed the bikes and things like that, but how often do you recommend them changing their fluids after the races? Is it kind of every heat, or is it after every weekend, or is it, whatever Blackstone says?
That's sort of a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's the first of many, we throw the softballs early.
we supply all the fluids for the cars. The gear lube, transmission fluid, and the engine oil, and it's all high grade synthetic. And we recommend that every race weekend you do an oil change and you service the trans fluid. Now, some of the teams, will stretch that out over a couple race weekends, and it's fine. It's a race built oil, so it takes a lot of abuse. These cars do run extremely hot when they're in the draft, as you've probably seen most of the races, certainly at Daytona, Road Atlanta, definitely Road America. They are tucked up under each other, so we see some really high temps, and of course that affects any of the fluids. So those races are really critical to change and service and maintain. And they run hard and they push them really hard, but we hardly ever see a fluid related failure. Most of the times a guy will get in there and he'll run the thing 240, 245 and get the thing really hot, and then we'll say, hey, you need to change the oil.
Yeah.
They definitely abuse them.
So speaking of abuse, one of the things that the Miatas are known to be tough on, especially when you start pulling some good lap times and putting some stress in there, is the hubs and bearings and wheel studs. How are they with this setup that you guys have? Because you're pushing the car a lot more than we're able to push our car, for sure.
Yeah, with the BF Goodrich, slick on the car, it does put a lot of load on the hub and the bearing. We recommend once a year on the hub and the bearing. Also, the wheel studs, we have gone over to an ARP stud away from the MSI, and that has helped any type of stud failure. But we do recommend, probably twice a year, put a set of studs in the car. We don't see a lot of that lately. The cars seem to be much better, and we stay on the teams to, maintenance the cars. But any time you're on a street engineered hub assembly and you're running a high grip tire, you always start to bring in new kinds of issues with those parts. But
Sure.
I actually, back in 2020, we had a car that failed the rear hub, and we went over there and pulled it off the car, and it was an original 2015 hub. So the car had ran 3 seasons on hubs. The guys just neglected to change them. But if you maintenance the stuff, they're good. And anytime there's contact made wheel to wheel, we recommend them replacing that part. And they usually have success.
So So how many people were looking at the other guy thinking that they did it when you saw that original hub be on there for 3 seasons?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a multi-car team, and it just they just missed it.
I think a couple of people are like, I thought you did that, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were mentioning earlier that they're in control of the tires. Did I hear that correctly, or you're in control of the tires?
Actually, every tire has a barcode on it. So there's a minimum amount of tires that you need to buy every weekend. It's 2 sets. And they come and we mount and balance the tire, and they're barcoded and given to that team. And then the rule is the set of tires you qualify on, you have to start race 1. And then for race 2, you can start on the second brand new set. So
Right.
The tires are very controlled. The tires you race on the weekend have to be purchased that weekend. So you can't bring any tires that you tested on or practice on for the race or qualifying. You can practice on that tire, but that eliminates anybody, soaking tires or trying to modify the tire. So
Right,
the tires
but I guess my question, maybe need to clarify my question just a little bit, is are all the tires the same? Now, are you you're basically trying to keep everybody's vehicle as identical as possible, so it all depends on the racing and skill, correct?
Exactly. So they all run on the same exact tire, and to even bring another aspect to it to make sure everybody has the equal equipment, BFG keeps a very strong hold on production. Like when they do a production run on a tire, that production run will only be at X race. So there's nobody gets an older tire or a different production run of a tire. So when they show up, all the tires are built at the same time. Everybody gets equal, tires. So nobody's like, well, I got a tire that's 2 years old, and the manufacturer, it's like, nah, none of that happens. So it's very kept very, very tight for compliance reasons.
Well, what tires are you running on?
They're BF Goodrich.
Okay.
It's a slick that is designed for this car.
So you're actually keeping, let's say that each race has its own batch of tires, so there's even less distribution within the population.
Correct. So if you
Wow.
want to do any type of testing, BF Goodrich provides a testing batch of tires. So we just had a bunch of teams that were at Homestead for the majors down there, and then they're running this weekend at Sebring. We get a shipment in of test tires from BFG, and we distribute those to the team, and they can test on those. But when they show up for the first race weekend in 2 weeks, those tires can only be used in practice. They cannot be used in official qualifying or race conditions.
Wow. I mean, that's taking spec to, well, at least as far as I know, unheard of spec, but nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
So what seats are you guys using in the vehicles?
So the seat option is open as long as it's an FIA seat. We make the competitors run a matching non-adjustable bracket in the car, but we offer everything from an MPI to an OMP to a Sabelt. We just picked up Recaro. We have built a couple cars lately with Recaro seats, so we just picked them up. Really, it's open. It's total driver preference on the seat.
Are they the Halo seats, or are they either?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Halo seat.
Okay, that's cool.
And this car was completely homologated with all FIA standards. So the car has to run, FIA belts, FIA seats, FIA seat brackets, all that. So it's a super, super safe car and very very well scrutinized when it comes to that. We're very serious about that side of it.
Okay, well, we We are always concerned because we do mostly endurance racing. We're going to start doing some sprint racing this season, but we're always concerned with brakes, brake pads, brake rotors, and brake cooling. Is that a concern with these cars? Have you guys done anything special in that area?
So these cars work well with the with the Brembo package. On the front, we run a Paget spec pad on all the cars, and we work very closely with them. They're a series partner, and they do a phenomenal job. They provide technical support at all the races and also on our development side. We were struggling when we went to the SADAV transmission because the car had picked up a couple seconds a lap, and the mechanical braking and slowdown of the H-pattern gearbox helped the car slow down, where the SADAV is so quick on the downshift, you really don't use the gearbox at all to slow the car down. So it did add a lot more to the brakes. So we came up in early 2021 with what was called our dual brake duct package. So we went to dual inlet, dual hoses, which greatly helped the brake performance. The only two tracks that the car, it doesn't really struggle at Daytona because there's so much time there to cool off, but St. Pete is brutal on brakes. So the guys will actually, they'll go through probably 2 or 3 sets of brake pads just at St. Pete, just because they get so much temperature in them. And, like anything else, when you're tucked up in the draft and you're not getting cooling air through the ducts, it really exemplifies the brake cooling part of the program.
I could see that. I mean, we had I think the one we saw the most wear and tear on our brakes was at the Charlotte Roval, but
I would imagine. Yep.
Just when I got going fast, you're making me slow down again. Anyway, So I have read, and you may or may not want to answer my question, which is fine. Most people don't like talking to me. It's okay. I heard that your tires had a fairly narrow operating pressure temperature window that gave you the best performance. Is that something shareable?
There is a recommended pressure that we like to see. It is very narrow. The tire it's a tremendous tire if you run the recommended pressure in the tire. There's guys out there that try to do some crazy stuff, and it usually catches them out. If you run the recommended pressure at starting, you'll see the most consistent, increase of pressure that you'll ever see in a race tire, like across the board. But you'll get one guy out there that wants to start at some, crazy low pressure, or a guy that's got high pressure, and the car instantly, gets outside of its performance window, and it shows very quick. Same thing with setup. We have a recommended setup for the car, and, give or take a couple degrees here, and, a difference of a couple, millimeters of toe. And the guys that try to get outside of that usually get outside of the window, and they struggle, until they get back in it. The car has a very, very nice adjustability if you stay within the box.
So don't color outside the lines for at least that aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So what are the general fees to race in one of your races?
So a weekend entry fee is I believe now is about $1,300 or $1,400. It's very affordable. The plus side of this series is Mazda pays $250,000 to win the championship, and the top 10 pays all the way down to like 10 grand, rookie of the year, is 100,000. So they put some big money into this series. A lot of guys, I know the last two champions, they've actually made a good chunk of change being able to race. It's by far the best paying series in all of racing right now. It's incredible.
What do you think the wear and tear cost would be per weekend? Because I mean, we've learned very quickly that the entry fee is only part of the bill.
Yeah, exactly. And even the tires are fairly inexpensive. I mean, they're in the low 300s for a set of tires.
Oh wow,
or
that's
for
not bad.
Per tire. Yeah, per tire I think they're 320 now a tire. So really, I can't comment on a weekend budget. It ranges all over the place, but we have small teams that run for about 85,000 for the season, and then there's the bigger teams. They've got some bigger budgets and things that could be up to about 120, 130. Depending on the crash damage. But when you put 250 up there to win, it seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's for what you're doing at the level you're doing it with the equipment you're doing it in. That's not a bad season. I mean,
yeah, and if you keep the car within the homologation specs, and I just sold a used car that was a year and a half old and basically got what a new one costs. So the resale value of the cars are tremendous. I mean, guys run them for a season and they'll sell it and lose very little amount of money. It's the next best thing to buying a Porsche 911, GT3 car that you can run for a season and get all your money back. So just on a lot less scale. That's about it.
I'm gonna have to make Vicky listen to that last part, maybe, but we'll see.
Right.
It is as cost effective as you could get in the racing game. I'll say that.
If only I was good enough to deserve a car that good. But anyway, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
So I did see that there's been at least a couple people who actually won a seat in the series. What's involved with doing that? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. So we actually provide the shootout, which it's a qualifying program. So if you race a Mazda product in any of the grassroots areas, SCCA, NASA, any of those series, you can qualify for the shootout. They also do a women's initiative where they pick 3 girls every year, and they give them a scholarship to run an MX-5 Cup. So this year the winner was Connor Zillage, who ran Spec Miata. I believe he finished 3rd at the runoffs at Indy, and he was a go-karter. He took the top spot, and he received a $110,000 scholarship to run in the series. And then second was Bryce Cornett, who's an open wheel Mazda gentleman that won that. He was runner up. And then on the female side, Laura Hayes, who is a BMW test driver, and she had run some Mazda events, and actually she runs in WRL. She won on the female side. So that also, I believe, paid $75,000 scholarship. So it's a great way to, pay for the majority of your season. It's an awesome program. We had a total of 12 participants on the MX-5 Cup side. So they chose 9 males and 3 females. So it's an awesome program. If you want to work your way up into, racing, Mazda really provides a lot for the young driver.
So just in case the people at home aren't familiar, I was going to give you a chance to toot your own horn because I saw some Lemons of Love charity cars that you guys managed to put together, which was fantastic. Yeah,
so the Lemons of Love is a phenomenal charity. It's something that is very close to me because I've had some cancer situations in my family, my close family. So it's something that we greatly support. It's an awesome giveaway. This is car number 3 that we're building for the charity, and it will be given away at the IMSA weekend at Road America in August. And I believe the total is only 2,500 tickets they sell, and the tickets are $125 per ticket. It's great odds, and you basically get to win, a brand new MX-5 Cup car, and it's fully loaded, ready to go. I mean, you could basically, the winner last year, he had pictures of the car running at Monticello up in New York, like 2 weeks after he got the car. So I mean, it's turnkey and ready to go. It's a great giveaway.
So these vehicles, are they able to compete in other series, or are they just limited to your series?
No, so the car's homologated, so it can run anywhere it fits into a class. So SCCA, it runs in T3. I'm working on the car to be eligible to run in STL. And then in NASA, there's a class where I'm not familiar with what class it is in NASA. I have built cars for Chump Car. A team based out of North Carolina had won a couple races up there with their MX-5 Cup car. It's sort of not really the Chump Car philosophy, but yes, it does. It runs in multiple classes, and it also runs in most of the private country clubs, such as Monticello, Autobahn, Spring Mountain. There's a couple more out there that hold their own inner club sanctioned MX-5 Cup series. So we actually have 29 cars currently at Monticello, and I believe we have 13 or 14 out at Spring Mountain, and then we have a good bit at Autobahn. I'm not sure exactly the number, but those guys run the cars at those clubs also.
So you're saying we could endurance race this then?
Oh, it's a great endurance car, except for one thing. The gas tank is too small.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's bulletproof. These guys, even with the little 11-gallon gas tank at VIR 24 hours last year, they finished second overall. So you'll never break one. They're super durable. The problem is to put a bigger gas tank in the car, you have to get outside the homologation, and that just sort of ruins the car by starting to cut it up. But if somebody could figure out a way to get a little bit of the gas tank in, it'd be a great endurance car. But they only run about an hour and 10 minutes or so on fuel.
That's a lot of pit stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did that at our first ever race. Our first stint, it was everybody's first race. So our first stint, each driver did 30 minutes. And for the rest of the weekend, we did 45 minutes. I think we set a record for pit stops in one weekend. It was
yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah. Okay. So what, this is one of our dumb questions, but what do you do with all the extra spare parts that you guys have?
That's what I want to know.
I mean,
that's our issue.
Yeah, that's something crazy. So the interior basically gets scrapped. The seats we do sell, I sell the seats like they're going out of style. All the hot rod guys, and I just had a guy come tonight, and he's building a bull Bronco. He bought a set of seats. We do recycle those. The wheels and tires we sell, as a package, but everything else pretty much gets scrapped. There's a couple things that we're starting now to see that the warranties are running out, on the early model cars. So like, dash screens and soft tops that are starting to deteriorate that aren't covered under warranty anymore. Things like that. People are reaching out to us, and the stock transmissions, they've done some revisions to the newer transmissions, so they seem to be getting pretty popular with guys with older cars, and they do a conversion from an ND1 to the ND2 gearbox, and those sell pretty good. But the rest of the stuff, unfortunately, it gets shipped to the dumpster.
Well, let me tell you, there's this one thing that you guys could sell right to one of the hosts of this podcast. We broke the little connector for the ABS system underneath the driver's seat, and the replacement cost for the connector was $1,300.
Oh, Lord.
I'm
So
like,
is it an ND1?
2.
ND2?
Yeah.
Yeah, just shoot me a picture of it, and if it's something we don't reuse, we'll gladly ship it to you.
Okay, for $12.99, right?
Yeah, whatever the cost of the envelope or the box is.
I'm just like, it's a connector, guys. They're like, yeah, but then we got to do this and this, so we just get you the whole seat. I'm
You
like,
probably have
I
to
don't
replace
want the
We
whole
don't
seat.
need a whole
That's the
seat.
problem. Yeah,
I just need a connector.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm gonna learn how to
It
shrink.
might be the harness. That's the problem.
no, it could be. I don't know. I'm gonna learn how to do wiring and
I'd
shrink wrap.
gladly try to help you out.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
It was killing me because you go to the used car stores and you're like, what are you talking about? It's not one of their
Yeah.
it's not in their database. So they're like, no, we don't have any. I'm like, you have to. The car is sitting right there.
Mm.
Anyway,
Well, yeah, if you email me the part number or picture or whatever it is, my guru series manager Andreas, he knows every single part number by memory for these cars, so he could say,
Wow.
oh yeah.
you need to let him out more, sir. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Too many years inside the CEC trailer.
all right. So while you're in a generous mood, we literally have as the last question of our section. Would you like us to test one of these cars for you this season?
Yeah, sure. We do. We occasionally do some VIP press events during some of our testing. So the next time we're out testing, we'll have to have you guys out. Yeah, you will enjoy one of these cars on the racetrack like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I think we'd be on the NIP list for the not very important, but that's
Yeah.
okay. So we had a couple.
They put smiles on everybody's face. That's for sure.
I'm sure just a stock one's great. So this got to be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we did have a couple listener questions that we were going to end with today, if that's okay with you, if you still got a little bit of time.
Sure.
One person wrote in and they were saying, what do you think would be the steps to begun to get involved within your series? I guess besides buying the car.
Yeah, run a Mazda product and qualify for the shootout would be probably the best way to start the project. If not, you could reach out to one of the numerous teams that run in the series. And most of that information is at MX5cup.com. The teams are all very, very welcoming. So your best avenue there would, say, hey, can I come and check it out? Can I do a rental ride? Can I go to one of your tests? That's pretty much how it all gets started.
So do you have a nut and bolt checklist that we could verify against ours?
They're asking for a
sure.
little love there,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can send you our DPI prototype checklist. You want that one?
Sure, that'd be great. We'll put that as a link at the end of the podcast for whoever wrote that one in. I was like, well, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. No, we do. We have a setup sheet that we offer to the teams if they would like. But I can gladly share that with you. And it just goes over a lot of the basics and touching, the car and, nut and bolt and, certain things you should look at. So yeah, we can provide that for you for sure.
I think if I remember right, when the person wrote in on that one, they were worried that there's like a nut or a bolt they didn't never know was even there for them to tighten. So they didn't want to get caught.
Yeah.
So we did that.
Yeah.
Once.
The documentation of these cars is so in depth. It's incredible. So anybody can go on to flisperformance.com, and everything about both the ND1 and the ND2 MX-5 Cup car are all on our website. And there's, just pages of pictures and everything that we do to the car and the recommended maintenance. And, each car that we sell also, is provided with a stick that has all that information on it too. So if you ever needed to, wondered about something and how it worked, you can go on there, and it's a nice instructional manual for sure.
Sounds awesome.
So do you have any plans for your YouTube tech episodes? Or for more YouTube tech episodes?
Yeah, that was sort of something during the pandemic that we started, and fortunately for us, unfortunately for the people that followed those, is we just got so busy with builds, and we do have a fairly limited staff, that we were just head down after the pandemic opened up, building cars, because everybody was wanting to get out to the racetrack and away from everything. So it sort of put a hold on our tech talk side of it. But we have been pressured hard by Mazda and some of the competitors in the series to start that up again. So we're working on it, but we've got to get customers cars delivered to them first. That's number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they must be pretty desperate for your information if they're already stalking you through our podcast. So just
right.
Yeah. The ND community, definitely. I try to stay involved with all the forums and the Facebook pages and all that with all the guys, and try to help them out at any time that I can and time willing. And I just this afternoon sent a gearbox to Texas for an ND owner with a supercharger that was having some gearbox issues. So I try to keep in there and help them as much as I can, and they reach out and ask questions, and if we can't answer them, we definitely try to push them in the right direction for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So, sir, in case people haven't been paying attention, because I think we said it about 4 times during the episode, if they want to follow you or they want to contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out and touch?
So we're on all the social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even Snapchat. So those are the best ways to follow us. We do updates a couple times a week on things that are happening in the series on any one of those platforms. And then FlisPerformance.com, like I said before, has a bunch of information on there. But social wise, we keep up on that. We do reports at all the races, along with MX5Cup.com, which is phenomenal. And then, we do live stream all the races. This year, I believe we're going to Peacock because NBC Sports has changed to Peacock, but all of our races are streamed live. And then we have a replay on Peacock the following week. So people can follow along and watch all the races. It's definitely the best race of the IMSA weekend. And everybody comes up and says that. All the big teams, they're all in their haulers, either watching it on the live stream or they're standing down there on pit road because these guys put on a heck of a show.
They do. I think I had to push Vicky's eyes back in when she first saw your series, because I think it was the first time she'd ever seen bump drafting. And she's like, they're hitting each other. I'm like, yeah.
I was. I'm like, that's repair. Gotta repair that. What are they doing? They're nice looking cars. Why are they doing that?
They take a lot of abuse, believe it or not. We don't tear too much stuff up. You might knock the grill out every once in a while, but other than that, they take a lot of beating. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's not a chrome horn, but they do tend to get a little touchy feely in the front and the back. So
that's right.
All right. Well, sir, it was great talking to you. I appreciate you willing to come on our little baby podcast here, and hopefully we'll be able to get out and see you guys in person. And it sounds like you're at most of the events, so we might get to meet you in person. So that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
that would be great. Well, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it, and whenever you guys can get out to the track, just let us know. We love the Mazda community and Mazda owners being involved, and we'll get you hooked up and get you in the racetrack for sure.
Well, now I've got even more incentive to go to these.
I know, right?
Jeez.
I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great night,
You're
sir.
very welcome. Thanks, guys.